Craig, first of all, a very warm welcome to Park Hall. Again, we'll come to that in due course. Let's go back in time, though, for the benefit of those who perhaps aren't aware of your past.
Yep.
You were born in the northeast of England and you signed for Middlesbrough.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was a bit of a late developer. I went in at Middlesbrough at 14, 15, and obviously it was long before academy days, of school excellence days, which was probably only one training session a week. It was nothing like it is at this moment in time, the amount of contact times they have, and all the coach and the benefit they get, the fantastic facilities. In signed for Middlesbrough and end up doing an old school YTS for 2 years, and then got in the first team at 18, 19, made my debut in the championship, played in a successful team that finished second in the championship and got promoted that year to the Premier League. And then I was very, very fortunate then to be in the starting 11 for the next season against Leeds United in the Premier League, and played a handful of games from then.
And what particular memories, well, you've already mentioned a few there,
Yeah.
but what particular memories stand out for you during your time at Middlesbrough?
I think it's always got to be your first team debut. I think, we had probably about 10 to 12 players either side of my age, a year younger, a year above, that come through together, and got the opportunity under Brian Robson, which was brilliant, because the town and the team at the time was signing players like Ravanelli, Juninho Emerson, Paul Gascoigne, Andy Townsend, Paul Merson. So it was an unbelievable place to be at that moment in time. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced before, nothing the town and the club had experienced before. So it was a fantastic place to be in, and a fantastic person to work for in Brian Robson.
And like most young players, you were on loan as well. You were
Yeah.
at Preston North End,
Yeah.
Crystal Palace, and
Yeah.
you actually signed for the Eagles a
Yeah.
permanent contract as well.
Yeah, I did. It's always one you look back at, and all these players were coming into the football club, and I went out on loan early to Preston, where David Moyes was the manager at the time, and I really thoroughly enjoyed that. And I got called back to play back in the Premier League at the time. The club was still in the Premier League. I played a game against Blackburn, and I played another game as well, and then players got fit, but a player like Christian Ziga come in my position, signed him from, I think it was AC Milan, German international, top player, and you had Dean Gordon played in that position, who played in the Premier League for a long time, and I was 19, 20, and I just decided I wanted to, whether it was premature or not, it was just my mindset. I was a footballer and I wanted to play. Should I have probably hung around a little bit longer? I probably should have, because I was probably 8-9 months into a new 5-year contract. But I just decided I wanted to play, and I went out on loan, and then made the move permanent to Crystal Palace, which was a fantastic experience. And hardly coming out of the northeast of England as a young person, I couldn't have moved any further away to the bright lights of London, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And it is true, of course, that we never know what's around life's corner, and you did suffer an horrific injury that ended your career. How did you handle that as a young person?
Yeah, it was really tough, and I did, probably looking back, there's two opinions. I probably, at the time, some of probably my behaviour and reaction, I probably didn't handle it very well. But I think long term, because society in football wasn't like it is today, so there should be. There's a lot of mental health support and trauma support for young footballers, as well as the general public, and I didn't really get an awful lot of support, not because of anything, but I probably didn't want support at this moment in time. I wanted to deal with it the way I dealt with it, and I did, and that was and I fortunately got through it. There's been players who you speak to, players who have ended up having drink, drug, depression, multiple, which is understandable with not an awful lot of support. But fortunately, with friends and family, I managed to get through it and move out the other side.
And you did get back into football, and that was due to a chance meeting.
Yeah, it was. I had no intentions whatsoever of being back involved with football, and I'd been sort of doing a favour for my father-in-law, one of his friends, taking a bit of coaching here and there for a team called Upton A in Chester area, and I had a chance to meet Gareth Owen, who played. Him and Bungle played at one of my 30th birthday surprise party that my wife organised for her. And after a few beers, I just got talking to Gaz. I'd played against Gaz, he's a bit older than me, but he played for Wrexham when I played against for Middlesbrough in the FA Cup. So we had good conversation, we talked about football, and I think coincidentally Alan Bickerstaff had just left Airbus as assistant manager, and Gaz said, do you want to meet up for a coffee, etc., etc. And I think it was, we both had a couple of drinks, and I sort of said yeah, but I don't think I had any interest really. And a couple of weeks went on, a month or so went on, and then I did get back in touch with Gareth, and we had a conversation. I went in there as his assistant manager because he was the player manager, and almost like from then on, Gareth left at the end of that season, and Airbus offered me the manager's job, and from then on in, I sort of caught the bug really. I think fell back in love with football, because at one point I couldn't think of anything worse than going back into this industry and sport that probably took away the biggest dream a young boy or girl could have of being a Premier League footballer. But it did. It got us, got the bug back again, and fell in love, and started on my coaching pathway. Big influence that was Carl Darlton, who come in with me at Airbus as a coach, and he was working for the FAW, and he sort of become a bit of a mentor regarding coaching badges and and stuff like that, and got me involved and got me more enthusiastic with the coach process, and went on and done my C licence, B licence, A licence, and Pro licence. And if someone had said to me then you'd go on to do that, I would have thought they were crazy. But things happen in life for a reason, and maybe that happened for a reason.
And as your footballing journey continued now on the coaching side, how did the connection with the New Saints come about?
Yeah, it was Carl had left me at Airbus to come here as a coach with Mike Davis, and then it come to the end. I think it come halfway through the season. I think the team had unfortunately lost the league to Bangor that year, and I think it got to sort of October, November time, and Mike left his position, and they were looking for a new manager. And I thought I got to the point now where I was back in love with football and comfortable with wanting to be clear, knowing I wanted to be back involved with full-time football, and applied for the job, and and went through the interview process, met Mike a couple of times, and then fortunately Mike put his trust in myself and gave me the job, and I think it was the rest history, as to say.
And at that stage, you'd obviously, as you said, fallen back in love with football, done your coaching badges, certainly enjoying it. Yeah. But did you realise just how successful those next 6 years would be?
No, I don't think you ever do you? Because you can never read into the situation what's going to happen. It was a very lucky and prosperous time for the club, considering they lost the league off the back of that, and they hadn't really sort of won the league 3 or 4 years in a row. They'd won it. I think Rill won it for a little bit, Connettley won it for a bit, Bangor won it, with TNS in between winning the league here and there. And to go on the run we went on was something I think I wouldn't even imagine that in my wildest dreams that happened at that time.
And do you look back on the almost triple treble, which would have been an historic achievement had that happened, and do you look back on that sometimes and think that last game, which was your last game with the club against Bala Town, when we failed to achieve that, do things like that come back to haunt you? And if they do, are you able then to turn them into a positive to make you more ambitious?
Yeah, it does, of course it does. The opportunity to win a triple treble, a double treble was not unheard of, but a triple treble would have been, just outrageous. But yeah, it is something. We're 4 or 5 years on from that, 4 years on, I think, and I could still tell you, details of the game, and how the game went, and how the game should have went, and what happened in the game, and so yeah, it does, because I think when basically what happened with me with my leg, having to finish being a footballer that young, I've got a still and hard then, and still got a burning desire to be as successful as I can as a coach or a manager, because I feel almost a bit hard done by, through no fault of anybody. It's just that's the way life is, but it's something that's got a burning desire in the pit of my stomach on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis to be the best I ever can at coaching, managing the other side of the game out of playing. And it's something that's driven me from the day I fell back in love with it, almost to sort of put some demons to bed from my playing career that got took away far too early through no fault of anybody.
And during your time with TNS back then as well, would it be true to say that the biggest achievement was the Guinness World Records 27 consecutive victories? Yes or no?
Probably not, but maybe on reflection. I think at the time we got to a point where when we actually broke the record, we still hadn't won the league. And at TNS, the be all and end all is winning the league to compete in the Champions League. And we were in a very, very strong position, but we still hadn't won anything. And it was, I don't know, it's hindsight, you get a little bit older, you mature a little bit, and you think probably should we have enjoyed that, and should we have been given more credit than what we actually did at the time. But we still had a job to do. We still had to qualify for the Champions League and European football. So probably didn't enjoy as much as we can. But reflecting now, and when you're talking to people and you come into conversation and they talk about it, you think about it. 27 consecutive victories in all competitions is something pretty special. And the team, we took it off the great Ajax team with Johan Cruyff in the team. Look, we've never been deluded enough to try and compare ourselves to Ajax, but it's a huge and it's a fantastic achievement in itself that the players should take all the credit for.
And your achievements certainly got the attention of clubs on a wider basis. Yeah. Hartlepool came knocking. Did that come as a surprise?
Yeah, it did, and you'd like to think if you're working hard and you're being successful and you're doing everything right, which everyone at the club was, you get the opportunity to maybe move across in England, and the base of being in the northeast, where Hartlepool, not far from my parents and family and friends, and it just seemed the perfect opportunity to get the opportunity to go and manage in the English system. It didn't work out that way, but spoke about it quite a bit. Not all positive and not all really good experiences have to be positive ones, should I say. It's probably something that's moulded me as much as what anything else has. The against the odds, the being backs against the wall, all the things, not winning football games, things were quite highly spoke about at the football club, about not having any money, almost being out of business, etc., etc. at the end of it. So it was challenging, having a transfer embargo, working in the restrictions of that, having to sell players, not being able to sign more players. It's something that in the world of football, I wouldn't want anyone to go through when you had it at this moment. At the moment in time, it's really not a nice place to be. But if you can get through that, then it's certainly a huge learning curve and a huge learning and a tool that you can use in the future.
And how difficult was it at the time to make the decision to say farewell to the New Saints, where you'd been so successful, and then take on a fresh challenge, a step into the unknown almost?
Yeah, it was tough because we had lots of success here, and in myself and my family had and embedded ourselves into the football club, with lots of friends on and off the pitch, players that should take all the credit for the success we had. It'd been fantastic, and it was brilliant, but as a person, I always like to try and push myself as best as what I can, and try to look forward and try to challenge myself, and I felt at the moment in time that was a challenge that I wanted to take and cross over, like I say, into the English system and test myself in that environment.
And you couldn't keep away from Wales because you were back at Bangor City for a brief spell, then good. At Connah's Quay Nomads, where again you enjoyed success. Yeah,
I did. I loved it. It was the opportunity coming from Bangor to go back into full-time football. Connah's Quay were just starting off a full-time programme, hybrid programme, and the opportunity to work with Andy, who I've got the utmost respect for, and he'd done an unbelievable job. And I've often said, I probably wish I'd have worked for Andy for a couple of years before I got the opportunity to work in England, because I learned a hell of a lot of him, and it was great working with him. The likes of Jay Catton as well, who was fantastic working with. So there was great staff, great people. Gary Dewhurst, obviously, very similar to Mike Harris. People that are putting a lot of money into Welsh football and back in their football club, and it was brilliant. It was excellent. Some fantastic European nights, in win the league on a couple more occasions. And like I say, probably beating Kilmarnock over the two legs in the Europa League was a fantastic achievement and a great night. And I can't speak highly enough of the club, the owner, in the thanks for Andy for giving me the opportunity to work with him first and foremost in the football club.
And as we've said, you never know what's around life's corner. Would you imagine just 2 weeks ago you'd be sitting here at Parkhall talking to me, and you've just moved back to the New Saints?
Yeah, no, not at all. It's obviously, we all know the association I have with the football club. It was a long time. It was a really successful time, and it was the opportunity to come back to full-time football. Not through anyone's, just through situation. Quay have went back to part-time football, and it was and that's what attracted me to Quay in the first place, that they were going on a full-time programme. And that's why I wanted to be involved with them and working with the people that I work with there, and having more experience working on the assistant manager side of it was a great experience. I learned a hell of a lot there, and then obviously moving forward into when Andy left Quay and stepping in there for the 6 or 7 months it was as first team manager. But I'm ambitious. I want to be at a full-time football club. Yes, you don't always get what you want. Yes, you've got to work hard for it. Yes, I'm in a very fortunate position. I think anybody who's working full-time in football should be humble enough to realise they're in a very fortunate position. And the opportunity come again, and something that I was interested in, because of heart and head, really.
Was it a difficult choice to leave Connah behind, or because it was moving into a full-time situation, a little bit easier this time round?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit easier because of that, but solely because of that, not because of the people or the football club or the players or anything like that. Because it was well documented, the situation Connah got himself in last year with the points deduction, and at that moment in time, I couldn't have thought of a better squad of people and players to be around to get us out of that situation. And you've got players there that were, achieved unbelievable amounts with, winning the league on 2 occasions. As I said, Welsh Cups, League Cups, fantastic European nights. So it certainly wasn't the players, it certainly wasn't the staff or the football club or the owner of the football club. It was just the situation that, fortunately, I wanted to be in a full-time environment if I could.
And as fate would have it, the first game for the New Saints in the domestic season is at Connah Nomads this Saturday. You've only just come to the club in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
How much of an involvement will you have there?
Yeah, look, this is the first time being to train today, the day before, match day -1 on a Friday, the day before the game. So Sarge was at a week ago, less than a week ago. Sarge was at Runcorn Linnets watching Connah play. I seen him across in the stand at half time, and he was doing his due diligence and doing his notes for preparing for him to be interim manager. And I think it's probably Sarge has done all the work for the game. I'll obviously be in the game before the game, half time, after the game, and supporting Sarge as much as possible. But the majority of the work Sarge has done, I think it'd be a bit unfair of me stepping in on the Friday after all the hard work he's done in preparing the team for the game the next day with literally a 2-hour window.
Craig, thank you so much for your time today and the insight into your life. Welcome again back to Parkhall, and all the very best for the upcoming season.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back.